Hello dear students, welcome back to the lecture series of object-oriented programming. In this lecture we are going to see hybrid inheritance with example, as well as we will see how the ambiguity occurs in hybrid inheritance. At the end of this lecture you will be able to use hybrid inheritance. Let us first understand what is hybrid inheritance. When derivation of a class involves more than one form of inheritance, then it is referred as a hybrid inheritance. In C++, the hybrid inheritance is a combination of two or more types of inheritance. Now, if you observe this diagram over here, I have class A, class B, class C and class D. Here, class B and class C are the child classes of class A, and class D is inheriting the properties from two base classes, that is class B and class C. Now here if you observe, the class A, class B and class D can be considered as multi-level inheritance, whereas class A, class B, class C hierarchy can be referred as a hierarchical inheritance, and class B, class C and class D is referred as a multiple inheritance. So here the number of inheritance forms are available, and that's the reason this structure can be referred as a hybrid inheritance. A derived class with two base classes, please observe here, a derived class, that is class D, with two base classes, that is class B and class C, and when these two base classes have a common base class, now here class B and class C are inheriting the properties from class A. So class A is the common base class for class B and class C. So when such a situation occurs, it is referred as a multipath inheritance. Why it is referred as a multipath inheritance? Because class D is the child class which is inheriting the properties from class B, and ultimately it is inheriting the properties from class A as well. In the same case, if you observe the another path, then class D is inheriting the properties from class A, and ultimately it is also inheriting the properties from class A, as class C is inheriting the properties from class A. So now class D is inheriting the properties of class A through class B as well as through class C, and that's the reason it is referred as a multi-path inheritance, as class D is inheriting the properties of class A through the multiple ways. Okay, so now if you observe here, class D is inheriting the properties of class A two times, once through class B and second time through class C, and that's the reason ambiguity occurred over here. Okay, and there are two different ways to avoid this type of ambiguity. The first one is we can use the scope resolution operator, and the second one is use of virtual base class. The use of scope resolution operator we have already seen, and the use of virtual base class we will see in the uh, next lecture. Now let us see the example of hybrid inheritance. Let us consider the class as a arithmetic, which can be considered as a base class. Now that base class, arithmetic class, is inherited by one of the derived class. Let us consider that derived class is a plus class. Okay, and let us consider we have one more class, that is a minus class. Okay, now uh, if you observe the diagram carefully, the class plus is inheriting the properties from class arithmetic. The class result is inheriting the properties from class plus as well as from class minus. Now here two forms of inheritance are available, that is arithmetic plus and result. This path is referred as a multi-level inheritance, and plus minus result, this form is referred as a multiple inheritance. So here two forms of inheritance are available, and that's the reason the whole structure is referred as a hybrid inheritance. Now let us see the practical example. Now here I have class arithmetic which has a two data members which are protected, that is num1 and num2. It has one public member function, that is getData, which is going to accept the values from user, that is two numbers from the user, that is num1 and num2. Now let us have the another class, class plus, which is going to inherit the properties from class arithmetic. Which properties? Now class plus is going to inherit the get data function as well as the member functions num1 and num2. Okay, and what the class plus is doing? Class plus has its own member function, that is add member function, which is performing the addition of two numbers, and it has its own data member, that is sum, uh, uh, which is going to save the result. Okay, and now let us consider one more class, that is class minus, which is a separate class which has a protected data members as n1, n2 and diff, and it has its own member function, that is sub, and it is performing, it is accepting the values of num1 and num2, that is n1 and n2, and it is performing the addition of it is performing the subtraction operation over here. Okay, so please see the example carefully. This class arithmetic is my base class. Class plus is going to inherit this arithmetic class. So of course the data members num1 and num2 as well as member function get data can be inherited by class plus. I have one more class over here, that is minus class, and minus class is performing the subtraction operation. It has its own data member and member function. Now we will have one more class, that is class result. Now if you observe the relation of arithmetic and plus class over here, we have the relation as multi-level. Okay, that is from arithmetic to plus, and now that plus class will be inherited by the result class. Okay, if you observe over here, then the result class is inheriting the properties of plus class as well as the properties of minus class. Okay, so if you observe the relation as arithmetic plus and result, it is a multi-level inheritance. Okay, and if you observe here I have class minus. Now class result is inheriting class plus as well as class minus. Okay, and hence it is referred as a multiple inheritance. Now what that result class is going to do? That result class is simply displaying the result, that is sum and difference of the two numbers, that is num1 and num2. Now let us see how the main function has been implemented. Now here class result is my derived class, and I have created the object called as a z of that derived class result. Now that result class is going to call that get data function through that object which is created from that result class. Okay, and now this get data function is inherited from the class arithmetic. Okay, if you observe the example over here, this get data function belongs to whom? Class arithmetic. But as result class is inheriting the plus class and plus class is inheriting the arithmetic class, ultimately the arithmetic class can be inherited by the result class. Okay, so using the object of that result class, get data function can be called. Okay, and the second function, that is add function, it is from plus class. Okay, and as the result class is the derived class of that plus class, that function can be evoked. Okay, one more function is there, that is sub function, which belongs to minus class. So the result class is inheriting that sub function from the minus class. Okay, now the display function, now that display function is its own function, that result class has its own function. So if you observe over here, the get data function, add function, sub function are inherited from the base classes. Okay, and the data members, that is num1, num2, as well as n1, n2, sub, diff, these are the data members which are evoked through this member function by this derived class. Okay, so what will be the output? The output is very simple. When we call this get data function, the two numbers uh, will be entered by the user, 4 and 5 for example, and sum will be calculated by the plus class and it will be displayed. Okay, and when the sub function will be evoked, okay, then again two numbers will be inserted by the user, 4 and 5, and the difference will be calculated as a minus 1. Okay, so likewise, this is the hybrid inheritance. So multiple forms of the inheritance can be implemented in the single program at a time. Okay, so that can be referred as a hybrid inheritance. I hope you have understood how to use the hybrid inheritance, as well as I hope you have understood how the ambiguity occur in hybrid inheritance through the multipath. Okay, now how to resolve this ambiguity we will see in the next lecture. So thank you. Happy